It's Drewski McGillicuddy's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning Movie Review.
Hey everybody, it's Drewski McGillicuddy, and thank you for joining me for another segment of me reviewing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. And this time, we're going all the way back to the beginning. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning, from 2006. And I'm going to say right off the bat, this is the movie that I wish I would have gotten as my remake to the original franchise. Because this movie doesn't paint itself into a fucking corner like the remake did. Because, like, what were they supposed to do after that? Make prequels? Oh, they did. Well, what were they going to do after that? Make prequel sequels? Because I'll be honest with you, as many problems as I sort of have or have had with the remake, I don't have as many of them with this movie. Aside from the opening scene, this could have been the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even though they still kind of explain too much, but they don't, even what they explain too much of, they do a good job of explaining it. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I did not need to see this fat lady that looks like she might have ate too many cheeseburgers, and then you find out she's not just a fat lady, she's pregnant, okay? And her water breaks, and this scary looking baby comes popping out, and it's so scary. In fact, they throw it in the dumpster, and it becomes a prom night dumpster baby, but not like a prom night dumpster baby, more like a slaughterhouse dumpster baby. And then you got Ellie Mae Hewitt out here rooting through the garbage, just eating the trash, and she comes across the baby. Before we come across the baby, it's like, this meat has been sitting out here in the Texas heat, okay? This meat has been sitting out here in the Texas heat. It's probably not safe to eat. Anyway, seriously, that shit's gotta be spoiled, okay? It's probably 90 degrees. It's been sitting in that dumpster. It's metal, and the sun's been beating down on it. Not to mention, that shit was probably gross to begin with. Like, why else would they be throwing it in the goddamn garbage? Anyway, that's beside the point. She comes across the baby, and she takes it home, and even her son tells her, I guess he's her son? I don't know. It might be her cousin. Could be like, her I don't know who Charlie Hewitt, who becomes Hoyt. I don't know who the fuck he's supposed to be. But he's standing there in the shadows all ominous like you're not supposed to know who the fuck it is. And he says, that's the ugliest damn thing I ever seen. Now, I don't hate this opening scene. It doesn't take away from the movie for me because, the remake had already came out, so I expected them to go back and show us the origins and all that stuff of everything that led to the remake. But like I said, it's just so fucking stupid that the remake had to fucking paint itself into a corner so that now we get a prequel sequels, or we can't even get a prequel sequel. We just got to reboot the franchise again, but we'll talk about that tomorrow or the next day, maybe, I don't know. So then we get this fancy little title sequence, okay? And it kind of explains without words Leatherface and like why he hides his face, because then we get to 1969 and they're condemning the slaughterhouse, and they have to tell him he has to leave, and he's got this mankind looking mask on that covers like the deformities that his skin condition had caused. So they tell him, you gotta leave, and he's over there, he's chopping up the meat. And would you want to be the one to tell this guy, hey, you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here? Would you want to have to tell that to Thomas Hewitt, this like almost 7 foot tall, 300-pound brute of a man? Because this guy didn't want to tell him either. So they tell him, hey, big dummy, you gotta get the fuck out of here. So he leaves, but he comes back. Yeah, he comes back and just... So naturally, the sheriff has to go to the Hewitt family residence and say, hey, your nephew done killed a man. I need your help in apprehending him. For one, because he probably won't listen to the sheriff. For two, because he probably killed the sheriff. And for three, because the sheriff does not have a deputy, which probably should have been the last thing that he tells this guy, Charlie. Now, this guy, Charlie, happens to be Arlie Ermey, who ends up becoming Sheriff Hoyt because he gets out of the car and he tells him, like, hey, I see what you did back there. But before he could read him his Miranda rights, Charlie comes up and shoots him in the back of the head and steals his hat. So, that's how Charlie becomes Sheriff Hoyt, everybody. So then we are introduced to our main cast of characters, which I've got to say, I think that's why I prefer this movie over the remake most of all, is because I can get behind these characters. I like them a lot better than I like the characters in the remake. They have a better reasoning for being where they're going, why they're in this part of town, and just their whole character arc in the movie, and just overall characters are better. That's just my opinion. Everybody don't get mad, but I like the fact that they're on their way to enlist for Vietnam. Now I have the same problem with these characters that I had in the remake. This movie's supposed to take place in 1969, and aside from when he's in the pool and he's wearing like the Levi's shorts, I don't feel like their attire is very 1960s. I don't know. I don't know if I can even find a picture that says, does this look 1960s to you? Maybe the one button shirt, but that looks like it could be a modern shirt too. I don't know, but that's just a small, tiny little gripe, and I could really give a shit less about it. I just think it would have improved the movie, but it doesn't devolve the movie, if that makes any sense. They're driving along, and they, the girl's got to pee, so they stop at our titular Texas General Store, and I think it's hilarious when the girl walks in and she tells Ellie Mae Hewitt, or whatever the hell her name is, you have some beautiful stuff here, ma'am. And even she laughs at it. It's just like, whatever. So they ask to use the bathroom, and she tells them it's out back. And as they're going out back to use the restroom, they're scared and intimidated off by some biker people who are just rude and obnoxious. But they go and tell them, like, hey, let's just get back on the road. But before you know it, here comes one of the biker chicks, and she's trying to get him off the road. I like that. That's an extra element to this movie that I liked. Like, there's a lot of elements that they added to this movie aside from ramping up the gore. And the funny thing is, this came out right after like Saw and Hostel had already come out, so the movie felt like, oh well, if they can do it, we can do it. So they definitely upped their ante, and probably the budget too for the gore, which it's such a shame that this movie didn't have such a good reception, because there could have been a sequel to this, and I think that would have been awesome, because then we could have got like a trilogy. You get the first, the prequel, and then the sequel prequel. They could have probably explored where that lady that they picked up in the original movie came from. What happened to her and her baby? Where did her family go? But no, everybody just ignored this movie because it was a fucking prequel, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, where was I at? So they get pulled off the road by this biker chick, and she tries to highway robbery them. And then here comes Sheriff Hoyt just in the nick of time. And I love the scene where she's like, y'all just stay cool, okay? She's like, officer, there was an accident. And he's like, oh, pfft. Blows her away and says, oh, is that right? So then, we get kind of a similar scene to the one in the original where he comes to check out the hitchhiker's body, where he's inspecting this crash site. And like, if you're a normal person, you could tell right off the bat that obviously this ain't the real sheriff. This is some dude that killed the sheriff and stole his wardrobe, because that's what he is. Because yeah, like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to fucking realize, like, hey, totally forgot to read her Miranda rights before he fucking blew her fucking head off. And then, he tells the kids, even though he knows they're fucking hurt, they just hit a fucking cow, for Christ's sake. Tells them he's gonna blow their heads off. They don't get the fuck out of the the fucking car. It was a Bronco, which is a shame what they did to that thing. Anyway, so we find out that what's her name has been thrown through the air into the tall grass, and she's unaccounted for. But once they realize that this might not be the sheriff, Eric tells her, maybe you should stay over there because this motherfucker's crazy. So he throws him in the back of the car, puts the dead biker chick, and takes him off on to Mama's house, where more fun and games are sure to endure. They're sure to endure more fun and games, because he takes them out in a garage and he strings them up and he hoses them off. Basically he's prepping them for mealtime, but he's playing with his food. And then that's when we get, he tells them the story of how he became to where he likes to eat people when he has no other choice. Because the slaughterhouse went out of business. The whole town has gone out of business. Even the sheriff's department, he killed the whole fucking sheriff's department. So now there's literally just this house and their general store. And if you're coming through their town, they're gonna fucking eat you. And who's to say there isn't towns like this out there? This could be based on goddamn sun glare. This is why I don't like making videos in the daytime. Anyway, now that we're into the thick of things get really good from here on out. And I honestly don't understand why people don't praise this movie as much as they do the remake, especially being that the fact that the gore's amped up. Leatherface himself in the movie. We didn't even got the Leatherface yet, but he is a lot more brutal in this movie. The mask, I think, looks better. I even like the Mankind mask. Things get going. He takes Eric down in the basement and puts him on, and it's like one of the most horrific scenes I've ever seen in like a slasher type movie. Like, it's fucked up. And the fact that they were allowed to show all this stuff because of all these fucking torture porn movies, I thank you for that. I thank you for that, because this scene is fucked. And right before this scene happened, because what the hell is her name? Jordana Brewster's character, whatever her name is, you would think I would remember her name because I liked her more than I liked Aaron. And it's not that I didn't like Jessica Biel. It's just whatever character they wrote for her, she was like this hoity-toity. I don't know. Me and Devon Graham were talking about it earlier, but we definitely both think that Jordana Brewster's performance and character were better. Just like everybody else in this movie, their character, like even the performances from like Arlie Ermy and the other characters, aside from the Tea Lady. The Tea Lady was better in the remake. There's a scene with her in this movie where it just seems like her and Mama are sitting there talking back and forth while the girl's tied up under the table, and it's just like, did y'all forget how to act? And it was like just that scene, because Mama's performance later on in the movie, it doesn't seem like that, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, anyway, before he fucking saws this guy up and makes his new mask out of him, there's a scene where Jordana Brewster's character comes, and like earlier on when they were at the pool, they were talking about how many kids are we going to have, what are we going to name them, and all this stuff. And then when she realizes that, shit, this might not turn out too good, she says how many kids. They do the whole scene over again, and honestly, damn near brought a tear to my eye. Like, just the emotion in this fucking scene. And this adds, what do you call it? Brevity, levity, something. This adds a word that I'm not necessarily sure of to the movie that it was missing in the remake and the other sequels to the franchise, I think. The other thing about this movie that I like a whole lot is the fact that they did try to recreate that dinner scene. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, like a bunch of terrible stuff happens to our characters, like the whole bear trap thing. Because Dean's, they're trying to escape the whole bear trap thing and whatnot, and hey. I mean, the overall brutality of this movie steps it up a little bit for me from the remake. And I gotta say, just the overall story, and then once we get to this ending, like this is one of the, like, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre had one of the best endings in horror movie history. And then you get to the remake, and it's got like, oh fuck, I forgot. We might have wanted to make a fucking sequel to this. It kind of ending. And then you get to the ending of this movie, and it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, because normally, there's kind of happy endings. There's final girls, not to give things away. But this movie was like, fuck you. Fuck your tropes. Fuck what you were expecting. This is how we're going to end it. And this might be one of the best. Like, might be one of it might be one of the best endings in a horror movie, because you just get Leatherface walking back home with his fucking chainsaw, and it's just a beautiful fucking shot. And it really makes me fucking mad that they couldn't have just made a prequel. How fucking hard would that have been? I want to know what happened to the goddamn hitchhiker lady from the fucking remake, you sons of bitches. So, if you can't tell, I really, really, really liked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. And whoever's responsible for this needs to just get punched in the mouth. I don't know what the fuck your problem is. Like, this ain't one of them horror movies from, like, never mind. Just flip that shit around, okay? Flip it around. Bam! There you go. 8.5, motherfucker. What? That's how I feel. That's my honest opinion. If you don't like it, go form your own fucking opinion. Sorry, I don't mean to get mad at you guys. It's just I get frustrated when I see that this and things like this are the reason that I don't have a sequel, and then we got stuck with this thing. As much as Devon Graham and some other weirdos out there love this movie, and as much as I loved it when I saw it in the theater for some weird reason, oh my God, I'm not looking forward to watching it again. But maybe this time I'll love it. You never know. Crazier things have happened. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. Why don't you let me know your thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning? Don't make me ask you twice, okay? Because I notice some of y'all ain't leaving comments, and it makes me sad. It's like I'm sitting here talking to myself. Also, you can click these buttons. It'll help me and let me know that I'm getting better, even though you can tell I'm losing my voice. I need to quit screaming. Follow me on the socials. I gotta go, because apparently, all of a sudden, I gotta get up at 4 o'clock in the morning so I can drive to Columbus.